We are Legally Sis. Welcome to our podcast.
The information provided in the show is for general informational purposes only and should not be construed as legal advice on any subject matter. No attorney-client relationship is created between you and Duran Schultz Law.
Hi, welcome to Legally Sis. I'm Attorney Wen.
And I'm Attorney March. Welcome to our podcast. In this episode, we will be discussing about condominiums and the common issues or problems that you may face as a condominium unit owner or even a tenant.
So now that you have your own condominium, or say you're just a tenant of a condominium, what are the common issues that a condominium owner or a tenant usually encounters?
Okay, if you are an owner, the usual now would be the delay in the turnover of the unit. Right? Because of the pandemic, there are so many condominium units that are not turned over or given to you for you to enjoy within the period of time that they've promised it. Another issue would be you've paid in full your condominium, but up to now, 4 years, 5 years, from the time of full payment, you still have not received your condominium certificate of title. Another issue would be the condominium dues that is being charged to you. Is it the appropriate time for the condominium to charge you? Is it reasonable? There can also be issues on interest and penalties when you do not pay for your condominium dues. There can be also an issue on house rule violations. If you are not following the condominium house rules, you can be assessed with penalties. There can also be an issue with a leak. It can be external. It can be caused by the unit above or right beside you. So are you going to navigate those leak issues that you're facing? Or any type of nuisances if there is too much noise, right? It can be outside of the condominium or it's your neighbor, either the side or the top. So how are you going to navigate those issues or problems that you are facing?
So having discussed those common problems with respect to condominium, so let's discuss first late turnover of title. This is common.
Yes, unfortunately, it happens. And in Metro Manila, almost all developers are quite late in their turnover of their properties to the unit owner, particularly because they have been hit by the pandemic. And some of the reasons I've seen when we have a client complaining against the developer are the developer would say there's an issue with the shipments of steel or goods that they need to erect the condominium. There is also a difficulty in hiring the technical people or the skilled laborers for them to be able to complete the property. And they can also indicate or enumerate other reasons like truck ban or some issues, legislation issues, or complaints by the neighbor which forces them to stop the construction. So if you find yourself in that situation, unfortunately, you would have to complain. Where, okay? First, you have to exhaust your remedies. You have to complain before the developer. You should try to settle it amicably. If you cannot, if they're not responding to you via email or phone call and explaining to you what's happening with the unit and the turnover, you can now consider hiring the services of a lawyer so that the lawyer can assist you in the drafting of the demand letter. Because under the rules, the condominium developer should be able to finish their development pursuant to the timetable that they have indicated with their licenses to sell, or when they requested for a permit in the development of that particular property. When all things fail, you can go to the HSAC to complain and state your circumstance that you have still not received your condominium unit, which is in contravention to the contract that you've signed or the marketing materials that the developer has promised you as to the turnover of the units. So what are the options if you are in this situation? Unfortunately, the options are not really a lot, because the first one would be you can suspend payment if you haven't fully paid your full purchase price of the condominium, or you can ask for the full refund of the payments that you've made. But of course, this is going to be difficult for you, or you may not want to do that because there's a time value of money, right? You know that the development would be really nice once it's erected, and the developer will only give you or return to you the amount that you've paid. It will not cover the potential capital appreciation or the increase that the developer has charged to other condominium unit buyers if you are early buyer versus those that came in like 2-3 years down the line. Of course, you have to proceed with caution because there are mom and pop developers that are really unable to continue or complete the development. If that happens, then consider cutting your losses because you don't want to complete the full payment, right? And eventually the developer will not really be able to complete the development.
Yeah, I remember there is one case that we handled. The developer sold a parcel of land in Baguio City, but eventually they were not able to erect or construct or even develop the land. So what we did with that is we represented the client and then filed a complaint against the developer, but this was before the HLURB, Housing and Land Use Regulatory Board before, which is now HSAC, or the Human
Settlement Adjudication Board.
Yes. So in that situation, there were hearings and the submission of position papers, and whereby the government agency rendered a decision.
Yeah, I remember also we have an aunt that approached us. She has been complaining that every month she has been paying the amortization or the monthly payments for the payment of the condominium. But it has been, 7 years running, and the condominium is nearly not finished. And I told her to take a look at the financial capacity of the developer, investigate what has happened. Apparently, one of the reasons why the developer was unable to complete the development is because the developer was being sued. And there is an issue with the land that potentially the development should have been erected. So that's the situation where I'm telling you that you may need to cut your losses.
Yeah. So aside from the problem whereby the developer failed to turn over in due time the property, so there are situations wherein the title has not been, given to the condominium unit owner. So what are the remedies of the unit owner in such situations?
Yeah. The first thing is you ask the developer what's the holdup. You try to communicate with your developer because once you go through the legal means or the legal remedy, it can be quite expensive for you. So when you follow up with your developer, you ask what's happening. Why is your title still not available? If the developer's reason is somewhat acceptable, then you may as well wait until the title can be released. So what are the usual reasons why the title is still not turned over to you? So sometimes this can be an issue with the documentation or the filing of the documents with the registry of deeds or the unitization of the condominium. Because once you built the condominium, you are going to request for the issuance of title of each individual units under the name of the developer. And then once you have a name under the developer, that's the only time that the developer can eventually transfer the title under the buyer's name. There are also instances wherein, for example, the tax declaration, your occupancy permit is still not finished. So in those situations, the City Hall may put on hold in the release of the tax declaration because it may feel that the building is still not fit for occupancy. So if that happens, then you might as well wait because you don't want to live there anyways if it's not fit for use. But sometimes, well, most of the times, it can be really a long time before the developer would give you the title. So outside of the first reasons that I gave you, the common reasons would be there is a loan. The developer used the development as a collateral to a loan with the bank to erect the building. If that happens, once you fully pay the loan, it is the responsibility of the developer to take the condominium title out of the hands of the bank or the creditor within 6 months from the time that you have fully paid the property. But if it's not mortgage, then there really is no reason for the developer to not issue you your title. So if you find yourself in that position after exhausting the amicable means, by following up constantly with your developer as to the whereabouts of your title, then that's a time that you should be considering asking the help of the HSAC so that the HSAC can force your developer in issuing your title.
Under the pertinent rules, whenever condominium owner has fully paid the fees for the condominium that he or she has acquired or purchased, then the developer is required to release it within a certain period of time, right? So it's
Yes.
usually 6 months.
Because it also is burdensome for the developer not to release your title. Remember, the processing of title will require the payment of taxes. And that would mean payment of DST and the CWT, creditable withholding tax, with the PIR. If they would ask you to execute the deed of absolute sale, say 5 years, 7 years from the time you've fully paid the property, there would have been an adjustment as to the zonal value of the property already. So if you look at it, the cost of the developer can be extremely high if they are dragging their feet, because had they executed the deed of sale, say 7 years prior without adjustment of the zonal value, then your basis of your taxes would be much lower versus doing it in 7 years from the time it was fully paid. Another one is there can also be a fault on the part of the buyer, because usually the cost of the transfer should be borne by the buyer, like the transfer taxes. And I've seen situations wherein the developer's reason why the title has still not been released to the unit owners because the obligation to pay for the transfer fees has not been completed, or the buyer has not given the money so that the developer can complete the transfer.
Okay, so aside from those, well, you mentioned 2 problems already. How about in situations wherein there are condominium leaks, say? So what are the remedies of the condominium owner or the tenant thereof?
Yeah, you have to differentiate the cause of the leak. Is it a leak because of the workmanship of the developer? Is it a leak because of the negligence of your neighbor on top or on the sides, right? Or is it an external leak? For example, there's an issue with the windows, it's not properly waterproofed, or the walls were not properly waterproofed, and there's a strong wind, it can cause the seepage of the water and onto your unit. So if it is a developer issue or if it is a maintenance issue, then you should go after the developer if it's within the warranty so that the developer can fix the issue on the leak. If the leak has been caused by maintenance issue, for example, it's time for your condominium association to waterproof the building. It's been what, 7 or 10 years already. The condominium association has not done its part in the repair and maintenance. Then you can go after the condominium association and say, okay, can you please fix this so that the leak can be immediately maintained or repaired. If, on the other hand, the cause of the leak is, for example, a busted pipe on top of your unit, right? The CR has been leaking for a very long time.
Comfort room.
Comfort room, yes. It happened to me. The upper unit's comfort room was not properly, the valve, I think there's an issue with the valve and the water has been dripping. So yeah, I had to complain to the admin office, and then the admin office contacted the unit right above so that their issue on their water closet can be fixed. And yet they were very fast in fixing it. It was only like maybe 3 working days and it was finished already. So I'm very happy on how the property management dealt with that particular leak. But if you are in a situation where the unit owner on top of you is not supportive,
Uncooperative. Or say not there or not living there.
yeah, what are you going to do, right? There's no way but send a demand letter and say, look, you're already causing issues to my enjoyment of my unit. So if that's the case, then yeah, unfortunately, you should be sending a demand letter. And since you are neighbors, then you have to go to barangay conciliation so that this can be resolved. If they don't show up, if there's no settlement, then yeah, you have to go to the small claims court if it will fall under the 1 million and below cost of damages.
For payment of reimbursement.
For payment of reimbursement, yeah. Because, you don't want to wait until the unit owner above will be fixing your leak.
Yeah.
Because what if he will be dragging their feet, right? It will take them a year or two when you are already suffering. So you can endeavor or work on the repairs charged to the unit above. But of course, you have to give them time to remedy it first. You can't just do it on your own. Like I said, you have to send a demand letter.
So how about in situation where there are nuisances?
Yeah, for example, your neighbor is doing karaoke, singing every
noisy after or during already the sleeping hours.
Yes. Or your neighbor has always been doing construction works. You can't enjoy your unit because it's always noisy. Or there is a building right in front of you that's being developed. And unfortunately, the construction is day in, day out, even if it's in the wee hours of the night. Right? What are your options? So if it is outside or external, right? If it's a building right in front of you, then you have to course through your issue on the noise with your property development management office, and your PMO can approach the neighbor in your behalf and complain that the noise is already unbearable. Sometimes if you are in a certain vicinity or barangay, there may be rules as to when the construction can stop or start, or what type of noisy works can be done during a certain period of time, especially if it's sleeping time. In those situations, maybe there is an ordinance that forces the developer not to conduct construction noisy works during 10 p.m. to say 6 a.m. so that the other neighbors will not be disturbed. Yes. But if the cause of the nuisance is your neighbor, like there's a karaoke, right? Gosh, this should be coursed through your property management office. I'm assuming there would be a house rule on the decibels that is allowable when you are living in a condominium. There has to be, because you can't be using the property to the detriment of your neighbors. If there is none, then you ask the board of directors or trustees of the association to craft a rule as to that so that your interests are protected. And then it would be the condominium association that would be implementing the house rules.
All right, so we have discussed a while ago regarding the late turnover of the land or the condominium itself, and even the title by the developer. Now we go to the time, or when can the developer start charging association dues?
Under the rules, it is the association that can charge the association dues.
So this refers to the homeowners association.
Correct. That means the developer has already conveyed the management of the association to the association. If it's still the developer and it's not yet conveyed as to the management, then there is no basis for the developer to charge for service fees or association dues unless you signed a document that allows the developer to charge service fees because of the management of the condominium. If you find yourself in that situation, then yeah, you can complain with a SAC, because the rule says it only the association can bill or charge association dues, and it should be with the consent of the majority of the unit owners that are residing.
So how about in situation where the unit owner did not pay his association dues? Say there's already a constituted HOA and the HOA is entitled to collect the association dues.
Well, I would say you put yourself in that position and it's your fault. But there are situations wherein you could not pay, right? If that is the situation, then I would suggest that you talk to your property management or your board of trustees for the reduction of the penalties and it. Because these are your neighbors, these are people also. And if you can show for humanitarian reasons the reason why you cannot pay, then they may abate the interest and penalty. Or they may craft installment plan so that you can easily pay for your association dues. So long as you're cooperative, I think the condominium association will grant that request. Generally, you have to start with requesting in writing, but you know the board of trustees' hands can also be tied because usually they would have a policy on the waiver of the association dues, because not all can ask for a waiver. It goes out to the public, and then the others may also ask for the waiver. So it's case to case basis.
All right. I guess that's it.
Hopefully you learned something. Bye.
Bye.